Hi, Thomas. Welcome again to this podcast series. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you, Dharam. How are you?
I'm doing great. Enjoying this heat, uh, sunny Sydney here.
Yeah.
And how's
Oh, well, I'm
Germany?
in Germany. It's really cold, but it's also sunny. So maybe that's why it's cold because there are no clouds, then it cools down at night, minus degrees.
Mm.
And then that's not usual for March. So maybe springtime is coming later in March.
All right. Yeah, it should be here. Spring should be here. Anyway, so it will be coming. And what we are talking today, important topic, business strategy. We should think about project management, linking project management with business strategy. So, what is business strategy all about?
Well, I think, business strategy is has different aspects. So how to grow, succeed with your business. It's the question, and the answer is a strategy. And as you cannot really lay down in every detail what will happen, a strategy includes options and includes general directions, but maybe not the detail of what will happen. So a business strategy often has as part of it, thinking about your product. What are you going to put to the market? Thinking about your market, your target customers. Who should give you the money for the product. That's one part. So what you do, but also you need to have a strategy about your capabilities, about your resources. How many people do you have, but also how many knowledge, how many intellectual capital do you have? What are your partnerships? So this is the capability strategy that you think about. What are you even able to do? And then this links to the strategy regarding project. So if you want to transform your business, transition to new as is to and from as is to be
Mhm.
situation. So then you have a vision and maybe business goals you want to achieve. So maybe enter a new market. Then you set up a project, and here is where projects come in place. There's in the environment, in the framework of a business strategy, having all these things, projects are being created to implement the strategy by looking at certain business goals. You are now here, and next year you want to be in the new market. So set up a project for that, and maybe a series of projects because you need different skills. And then you have to look at your capability. Do you have the skills, or do you have to hire people, or do you have to partner with people? Do you have to outsource stuff? So that's also very important. Um, regarding the product strategy, so what are you going to offer to the market? It's a service, it's some hardware or whatever. So it's important to understand what really can you produce. What if you don't have the people who can write software, you will have a hard time selling software to the market.
Mhm.
So you need to have some intellectual capabilities, maybe some patents, some things you can build on. And often, there is not often maybe, but there is sometimes a way to build a strategy which is called resource-based strategy. So when you see, okay, what do I have as assets? What do I have as knowledge and as experience as people? And then you're looking for ways, what can I do with them? Maybe you find out, I'm not so good at software, maybe I should build cars. Maybe that's what Musk was saying when
Mm.
he started Tesla. So um, uh, you see what you have at your hand and at your disposition, and then you say, okay, maybe I find out whom to target with that, or yeah, what to build. On the other hand, you also have as an asset your history. If you are not a startup, maybe you exist for 20 years, you have an existing market, you sell to existing customers and hopefully well, and you don't want to jeopardize this. So this is a constraint for your business strategy, that you have an existing market. Let's say what you know the company SAP.
Yeah.
So yeah, what they are doing, they for decades since the '88, they have sold the licenses, and maybe clients have put the software on their servers, on their computers, and then SAP offered them to run the servers by themselves. So they have a lot of client serving data centers now, but they have started um, a program to move all of their clients to the cloud.
Yep.
So they need much less data centers, and also the clients have to agree that they are moved to the cloud. But some clients would say, no, I don't want to move to the cloud. I want to have my dedicated data center where I know my data is stored, and I know who has access to that. I can look at it. And so that's something which is a risk for SAP with the strategy. So the strategy is to transform to a cloud-based business, leaving behind all these on-premise data centers. And there's a risk regarding to that, and they have a big program to achieve that. Um, and it's a multi-year program. So that's about strategy. And you see, this program is also, there's a project managers programs. So they are there to implement the strategy.
Yeah. So look, the question comes: why should project manager care about business strategy?
Yeah, well, the point is, um, mostly project managers are not involved in developing or shaping a
Strategy.
strategy,
Yeah.
but it is given as an input to the project. So if you have a project charter, or even you have a business case that has been developed, the business case is built on the strategy, on strategic business goals and objectives, to implement them. So for project managers, it's an input. And guess what? If you have a long project with a long duration, maybe more than a year, this strategy input might change, because the market changes, or the company decides we have some other priorities. So you should have, as a project manager, not only the input at the beginning of the project, but you should monitor what's happening on the strategy side, and then maybe proactively create some risks, and create some plan Bs or whatever, and try to understand what's happening on the business side. My experience is often a project manager is charged with a project, and then the strategy changes. And this is a little bit secret, maybe, from everybody, or including the project managers, though they are surprised as everybody else that the strategy changes, and now maybe their project loses a kind of priority and loses resources and attention and importance. Though that's what happens. So you have to have a very widely open ear and eyes and noses, and smell what's going on in the organization. That's why it's important to have a wide network within the organization, and know what's going on.
Yeah. So look, as talking about the business strategy, which is required to achieve particular vision in the future state of the business, and these projects and programs are initiated so that we can achieve those strategies, those missions. So project manager has to understand what is the purpose of his or her project, and sometimes if you don't know the purpose, what is the project connected with the end goal, they don't know. They probably just treat it as another project. But when they realize the importance of this project is huge, the impact of this project is huge, that can be a big strategic move for the organization, then the motivation level is different. team engaged is very different. They feel more connected, that they feel that this is, because of this project, the organization is moving forward. Of course, every project is important, but that's why the importance is relation, the organization vision, mission, business strategy, and how this strategy is connected. This project is connected with this strategy. So I think that's
That's
where
correct.
they can feel more connected with this project.
That's correct. What I observed, in larger organizations, you also have divisions or business units that have their own strategy, and they implement their own strategy also through projects. So, and I've been in situations where I asked for the overall purpose and why are we doing this, and I got the answer, that's none of your business,
No, that's
and
funny.
and yeah, so that's why traditionally, the project manager is focused not on outcomes and benefits and achieving strategic targets, but on delivering deliverables, outputs, and so that's why the scope is fixed, and you just do that, and if you are good at it, you achieve your targets. That's still the case in some areas. So if you are, let's say, a service company and you're doing a project for another company, they might not share their strategy with you, but they ask you just to create this data center. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and don't ask why, and especially in the military sector, they might not ask you to understand the overall picture, and your motivation has still to be there, and you have to motivate your people, and the vision is then deliver that what has been asked by us and where we get our money from, and deliver in time and scope, and so it goes back to the basics of project management as we had, and there's a difference, then if you look at the project manager and you look at the program manager, because the program manager really has to have an insight into strategy, because one of the performance domains in program management is strategic alignment. So it's one task in comparison to a mere project manager. A program manager has to have a core responsibility to understand strategy, to look at it, and even now it's not only input for his program, but it's also maybe output, because as a program takes longer time, maybe there are some results in the program, some benefits that come up, and you say, okay, maybe I should give that as an input to strategy development. So I'm not, as a program manager, maybe not involved in strategy development, but maybe yes, maybe no. But my inputs should be there for strategy development, because if I, let's say, as a program, I develop a new kind of project product type, then the input, what I experience, the market I get known of, would be of vast interest to the strategy development people, strategy maintenance people, and it's even more if you are a portfolio manager, because the portfolio manager is his or her main input is a strategy, because the strategy determines important criteria how to select projects and programs in the portfolio. So you have you have this funnel of projects, programs, initiatives coming in, and maybe you can only do 30-40% of them, depending on your capabilities and the funding that are there. And then you have to down select, and then what to select. And the one key criteria is certainly does this project work on important strategic goals, and how is the strategic fit? And it's not only at this moment when you decide about this, but also maybe a cycle above, after half a year, after a year, you will revisit that. And if strategy has changed, you might also change the priority of this initiative.
Exactly. And that's where, based on how closely your project or program is aligned, help the portfolio manager select or, recommend to get initiated. And You talked about confidentiality, some military. Yes, I mean, I understand that. Those things, yes, can. But most of the time, as a project manager or program manager, you should pay special attention to find out how my project is connected with program to portfolio to organization level, as much as you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's as you said, it's good if you have this idea how the context is, but you might not always have it, and you might
Yeah.
not always as a
My
project
philosophy.
manager, yeah. But
Yeah.
as a program manager, you should more have it, yeah.
Yeah. Look, I'll give one simple example. I was working with a very important initiative for telecom company, and I'm working with this guy. For him, he was just opening some firewall, rules and other kind of things. For him, it's a daily thing. It's operation work, and he was treating this as very lightly. But when I said, "Hey, you know what? The importance of this work is this, and this will change the direction of the organization." Really, then his motivation was different than he was doing that. Okay, I will do it one
Yeah,
day, someday. Kind
yeah.
of thing. So you need to bring those alignment to your teams to let them
Yeah.
know where we are heading to. All
But
right.
if you don't have it, self-motivation is an asset in emotional intelligence. So if you work on your emotional intelligence, you also work on your self-motivation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
if you cannot do that, yeah, you need external motivation.
So
But
look, Thomas, that's a topic for different time because we talking how can we connect why project manager should be worry about the strategy. Yes,
yeah,
yes. So we'll talk about the emotion intelligence at a later time. My next question is whether in reality today's business strategy focus on how to deal better with your competition.
yeah, it depends on the marketplace. Uh, if you are in a startup mode, you are a niche player and entering a new marketplace, then competition doesn't play a big role. But if you are in an established incumbent position, you have your existing customers and products for sure. And then competition. Um, I would look at Porter's five forces. I'm not sure if that is something. Maybe you Google it. It's a concept by Michael Porter, which is used in strategy development and is also useful to understand, in this context of the question.
Mm,
So how to deal with competition in a strategy environment. And the Porter's five forces, in the center, it's competition. How do we compete within the market? But then, what is shaping the market? And these are the four other forces. So no, it's the suppliers. Can the supplier still deliver what you need to produce your products and to serve your clients? And the power of your clients, of buyers. So now, is this a demand or a supply-driven market? And who has more influence on pricing and on profits in the end?
mm,
And then you may have an eye on new entrants to the market. Like Uber or these people who are entering your market of taxi driving. And then suddenly they have a better strategy because they don't care about certain costs you might incur. And then we have substitutes. So is as a fourth getting into a competition. So if you substitute some products, so like around the 1900s, the horses were substituted by cars,
mm,
and yeah, and then you didn't have a business in horses so much as you had. So the point is, for Porter says, okay, this is your marketplace where your strategy happens, and now it changes all the time through these five forces, and you better adapt. And for to adapt, you first have to listen. You sense and you respond to that.
mm. Yeah.
And so companies in strategy development, they go through these five forces all the time, regularly, and analyze the environment, the context, if there are some changes, and if there are changes, they have to adapt the strategy and maybe establish some defensive projects, business goals that are defending their position, or business goals to move with the market and to go to the substitutes of products. That's why you also need permanent product development. It's not okay to build one device and try to sell it for 20 years unchanged. You have to permanently make sure that substitutes don't come up. So yeah, depends on the marketplace, I would say, and Porter's 5 forces is the right tool to look at this.
Exactly. So it's available on, I think, also available in PMBOK 7th edition. Recently they added, and also, of course, you can do Google search Porter. All right. My next question is a strategy that is not intended or planned, but emerges from stream of managerial decision through time. This is coming from Henry, 1994. Do you agree with this statement?
Well, a strategy that is not only intended and planned, but also emerges. That's a strategy. Yeah, it's never fixed. So there is this famous word by a German general saying, "No plan survives the first contact with the enemy." You can plan, and a strategy is a plan. To achieve targets and goals and to be structures. So the plan is there, is important, and then you start putting it into place, and you encounter maybe adversaries or hindrances or roadblocks or whatever, and you have to adapt it. It goes around it, adapt the strategy. That's why I say, even if a project is built on a business case, which is built on a strategy, you always have to understand, is it changing and why is it changing? So the value of planning is not zero, though. Planning itself is important, but you don't plan for the absolute reality, because nobody can tell you what is the future, but you plan for different scenarios, and maybe you find a measure you are taking, and that's what many people are looking for. So if you have different scenarios which might happen in the future, if you have one thing you can establish to serve all these, to use in all of these scenarios, then you have a resilient strategy, because regardless what happens, you have the right tools to tackle it. And that is very important. And so you need even more planning than just planning for what you estimate would be the future, because you have to plan for a lot of scenarios. And there was some very good tool to do strategic planning. It was scenario planning. So you can Google it. Scenario planning is a tool that was invented, I think, by Shell or by Shell around 1970s, and it is now used in a lot of companies. It's quite extensive in the way it needs resources from a company and thinking. And the PMI board has installed scenario planning as their tool of choice for PMI strategies in 2006 and 2007. And when I was on the board in my first term, we did that. It was a very intensive exercise to establish a scenario planning. And what came out of that, what you still have seen for more than 10 years, is this signpost report, annual report coming out and published by PMI, where PMI looked at different indicators in the marketplace, in the environment, which could influence the strategy, and which were somehow looked at in the scenario planning strategy.
Yeah. No, you very well said. Sometimes and the planning is required. You cannot just say, I don't want to plan. Let's leave it for the luck. And sometimes things happen, and maybe that's a good direction. You going in one direction, it's like, hey, okay, by, that may be better strategy than going into this direction, because we can make more money, more customer base, and new product which we never thought about. Why not readapt and re-strategize and keep going?
Yeah. So actually, what happened with COVID or with the
Yeah,
war and with everything, these are we call it disruptions. And what they do, they disrupt our current planning in strategy.
yeah,
So and you better listen to these disruptions and identify them very early. There were for COVID, there were countries who were very late in recognizing that there is a problem coming up to them.
yeah,
But after some time, they had to. They were forced to, which was much more hurtful than going it from the planning stage. So uh, as such, strategic planning is also a sort of risk management. Because
yeah,
you anticipate what could happen and you give it a probability, and then you develop contingency plans, what to do in this case.
yeah.
But don't call it contingency plans. It's just a possible path to the future that could happen. No, it's nothing bad with it. The good thing is that you thought it through and you have an idea. In extreme, you could compare it with what firefighters do. They practice all the time. And what are they practicing? Possible scenarios in firefighting,
Mm,
and not only are they practicing that they are prepared mentally, but they also have they were preparing the tools they need, access to water, other means, ladders, whatever. They have a lot of tools in their cars to be prepared for any kind of their scenarios they have thought about,
yeah.
and yeah, I always say it's remarkable what firefighters do. They the point you made in the beginning, they have a purpose and they have a vision. That's not
Mm.
save lives and extinguish a fire and whatever, but they also have the tools and the means to do that. And why not learn from firefighters as project managers?
As actually you rightly said, we normally do the firefighting in the project anyway. That's what anybody said. I'm okay. I'm firefighting.
Yeah, well, yeah, the firefighting we do is not based on previous thinking. It's just based on okay, we have to do something, and it's mostly not planned. But it's
Yeah, yeah.
somehow
That's
just
why we call it.
reacting to triggers.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about the next question. How to bridge the gap between a company strategy and operating model?
Well, I think it's culture. So if you are working in an operating model, your target in a for-profit company is to get more productive, get more efficient, cut costs and increase revenue. That's the ongoing thing. You are trying to put a strategy, something new into a automatic process, and
Mm,
to be able to scale, but also to be able to drive down the cost, increase the quality, all these operational targets. But then, the strategy is looking forward beyond that. Now this is the status quo. This is the as is situation operations. And
mm,
now let's have a look in a year or 2 years what will change. And you could either do that because you anticipate some development in the environment, or you could do it because you say, okay, let's think about new ways to serve our purpose and to extend our company. So for example, Nokia, they started making rubber boots and they ended up doing smartphones, and now they ended up doing nothing. But yeah,
oh,
this
they
was a
still they've
strategy.
gone back to smart shoes.
So and I could imagine, just joking. I could imagine the board of Nokia sitting together in a bar in the evening and say, okay, what should we do next? Oh, let's do smartphones. Because we
Uh,
have the skills how to glue together rubber boots.
yeah, I mean, actually, that's Nokia is one, but I'm talking about the telecom company in Australia, the Telstra. and they are the largest telecom in Australia. And they said, okay, you know what? We already have customer base. We have all this, connection and everything. Why can't we do healthcare? Why can't we do the energy? Why can't we do the gas? So what? So utilizing your, current whatever operating model you have, maybe repurpose it to something else, and you
Well,
may get.
this is exactly the resource-based strategy.
Hmm.
You know what you have. You have a lot of connections and partnerships and contracts, and you know the
Yeah.
people. And then you are asking yourself, okay, I have these resources, this knowledge. So what can I do with that, with
Hmm.
new adjacent process? Yes, that's certainly a type of strategy that is seen more often. But what Nokia did, a smartphone is not adjacent to a rubber boot, not at all. So why did they really shift 180 degrees in what they were doing? Not
I
sure
think it's good.
anybody.
I mean, I don't know history, but probably that gone in the gradual process. You can't just turn smart like boots to the rubber boots to the smartphone. It takes, okay. Now let's try some phone and let's try the smartphone. That's it. Yes, yes.
Maybe they had I just dreaming about it, but maybe they had a customer base which were down in the hunters and whatever people who are hiking, and they needed rubber boots for sure,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
yeah, it was also a need to connect to people remotely, and that's why smartphones might be a good way.
yeah. You never know where this origination of new product can happen.
Yeah. And uh, I recall this, from my professional history. I knew one guy who came to business. Everybody came in suit and tie at these times, in the 80s. And actually, he arrived every morning in business with rubber boots. So it was a strategy to be fired,
So the
because they
strategy is to fight or
to
to be.
to get fired.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, because they thought he's not being able to send him to a customer,
Yeah.
in rubber boots, so he cannot fulfill his job, and maybe he was working towards a mental illness, So, but it was a surprising sign
Strategy.
if you see somebody in the office with rubber boots,
Hmm. Good. I think I have to do Google on that, so learn more about that story. All right. So executive typically care little about daily project management, uh, daily project management process, how it affects the bottom line of the organization.
Well,
Y-
as they rarely do it, I don't think it affects the bottom line so much because it's maybe usual behavior. And if executives dive down into the project's realm, it's often regarded as micromanaging. There are executives who can do that, who are supportive, but mostly, it's not their core business. Executives should steer a company and should
Hmm.
look at the strategy, and going into operations, going into projects, um, is good if they listen, but it's not good if they try to influence on the lower level. They should delegate this task to optimize the operations and optimize the projects. So project management for me is part of operations from the view of executives. They decide on strategic targets. Just do it, and sometimes you need projects for that, and
Hmm.
sometimes operations can do it gradually. So that's how revenue and how the changes in organizations are being managed.
See, that is okay. Understand executive have to worry about vision, mission, strategies, but they still have to understand the importance of the project management. Because whatever strategy you have, you are creating the vision, all these things. You need right people to do actually execute that strategy. That is where the project management and program management come in picture. The problem happens when they don't understand the project management. They don't care. Okay, I need people who can get the work done. I don't care who project
Mm.
manager is. I need just a couple of few bodies. They will make it happen. No, you need to know that project management is maturing, and project management can actually make things possible from idea to reality, and it's a whole process. They need to understand that. And to be fair, most business leaders or executives, they have never done project management as a
Yeah.
college course, or may not gone through PMI certificate or EA certificate. They don't understand it. So it is the responsibility of PMO or the project management team to make them realize, hey, actually, project management is the way to implement your strategies and get you the results. So that's what is missing part. And they just say, okay, I don't care. I don't want your project charter. I don't want this. Just get it done. So that's where the problem start happening. When the problem happened, I hired you for as a project manager. Why this failed? You can't just say you asked me to don't worry about project management plan. Don't worry about the schedule. Just get it done. I escalated to you. Now I don't. Now it's coming to me. So
Yeah.
that's where they need to appreciate as well.
Well, I hear you, and not only you, but a lot of people knowledgeable and leaders and thought leaders in project management, like Antonio Nito Rodriguez or others. They are uh, uh, telling the same story. They executives should, but guess what? They don't. And PMI, and I was on the board when I was on the board 2018. So we chartered a initiative called Brightline. You know Brightline? Have you heard of Brightline?
No, I don't. I don't know.
Okay, maybe you Google it. It's brightline.org. And
Mhm.
it's an initiative by PMI and other organizations like Boston Consulting Group, like universities. So there is a partnership, an alliance of organizations. And the target was to bring project managers to the C-suite.
Yeah,
Exactly what you were talking about, about
yeah,
executive. Because PMI itself failed to do so for 20 years, and we had a lot of approaches to C-suite, but they wouldn't well, they weren't interested. Let me put it that way. And a lot of things have happened. What Brightline achieved, that PMI for the first time was invited to Davos, and for 2 years, I think they did it. That PMI looked at bridging the gap between
mm,
strategy executives and implementation projects. Yeah.
yeah,
So this is the target of the Brightline initiative, and you can download a lot of material, articles, books, most of them for free from the brightline.org
yeah,
website. Brightline now has been morphed into a organization within PMI, and they're still pursuing that goal, and there's some success. And one output would be the organizational transformation certifications that PMI has announced. So there is yeah, transformations are the programs that move from strategy to implementation.
mm,
Yeah, from an as is to a to be status of an organization, implementing strategy. And this transformation was a topic within Brightline, and they partnered with a Professor Tabrizi from Stanford, and who has more than 20 years of experience and articles about transformations. And they developed something that was called the Transformation Compass, which is a very good, uh, let's say, structure framework for doing transformation successfully.
mm,
And based on that transformation, it's downloadable for free. And most of that transformation compass knowledge is put into three certifications around the topic of organizational transformation. So if you're interested how PMI is trying to get access to the C-suite, here it
yeah,
is. Yeah. And yeah, it's still a work in progress, I think.
yeah. So look, the lot of things required. The executive need to know or not. But I have seen actually, to be frank, I've seen people who have graduated from project manager, program manager, portfolio manager, now the C-level people. They are very they are more productive compared to the they don't have any project management background, because they can appreciate how this project program management can make the differences. That's what we are talking. We're not asking that they should learn project management. If they all we want, they appreciate the project management and the process, how the process where a project manager can take from the idea, which is at the moment, just idea, to the make it reality. There are a lot of things goes behind the scene, having right project management plan, scheduling, costing, everything. And it's a combination of everything makes the thing from here to the reality. That's what we are asking. We're not asking bright line or all these things that's important, but as the executive, they need to appreciate a lot can be done by having a right structure in the project management, program management, and portfolio management.
That's true. And it extends what you say to the capabilities and the quality of sponsors, project and program sponsors, because executives or sponsors are usually executives. And if sponsors don't understand what project management is and how to support the project manager, that is a key reason for failure. Yeah. So you are right. So training sponsors and educating sponsors, executives, is important to improve the success rate of projects. And there are some authors like Alfonso Buchero and others who are looking into the development of sponsors, but it's not a common treat yet. So if you look at organizations, still, there is a big gap, a lack of understanding of project management. And so maybe it's progressing. I don't have any numbers on it, and it's getting better, but I'm not sure of it.
Yeah, enough of this topic. Let's talk about next one. How can project managers tie value between their team members and senior stakeholders to maximize project success?
Yeah, maybe again about sponsorships, so to make sure that you have a good sponsor understanding that, and then you have this relationship, you can talk the same language. So what I see in many project managers, if they get to report to the steering committee, they are quite anxious. They don't like it. And the point is, again, they are not used to talk the language of executives, understand what their real needs are. But the executives expect that people presenting to them are aware what their needs are, and so there is a gap in training of project managers to talk the language of executives. And this gap can be closed only if a project manager regards also their executives as stakeholders, as every other stakeholder, so you have to make your analysis and you look into intelligence. So what are these people thinking about? What is their focus? Are they interested in football or cricket or whatever? And to build a relationship with them. Only then, if they respect you as a talking partner who can bring them new insights, then you will be able to build some rapport and be able to talk to them. So there's still a gap between project managers who are more in operations, more doing the nitty-gritty day-to-day work of planning, executing, monitoring, firefighting, whatever, and the executives who do that on a higher level, more shifting divisions and whatever around. Yeah. So how can project managers tie in value? Regard executives as stakeholders and do the real stakeholder management work you do for any other stakeholder. But we understand they are maybe more important to your success than the one user you have in one department, because stakeholders can support you, stakeholders can understand you, or stakeholder can give you some hard times, and I've seen, as I said in the beginning, many project managers struggle to present to steering committees and to go back with a washed head.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's where some of the stakeholder engagement, stakeholder identification, analysis, understand who the stakeholders are, what they're expecting, when they're expecting, what format they're expecting.
Yeah.
Don't just assume that everybody at this level they need this kind of information. No, the person may be coming with more detail oriented or graphical pitch or picture oriented or maybe something else to understand, and I think that can help them as a project manager to bring your team together. As a, it's all about how we
Yeah.
can get the deliver the work.
Some years ago, I had a question from one of my mentees, and he asked me, okay, he was an Indian guy overseeing a division in India for an American company, and he said, Thomas, in 2 weeks, my boss has announced he will come from the US and visit our site. So,
Mm.
how do I deal with that? And so we had the discussion with others, and I wrote an article about that. You can find it on my LinkedIn page. How to deal with your boss if you meet him for the first time, and there's a whole lot of thinking and planning to be done, preparing for scenarios. When this guy comes in, and and you try to speak his language and to give him a good feeling. So it's often a misunderstanding of the interests, of the capabilities of executives on the side of project managers or whatever, who's the subordinate there, and trying to talk to them and trying to get something out of it. And this article is not only based on my understanding, knowledge, and there was a lot of input from others too. And though I think it's worthwhile looking at that.
Good stuff. Thank you. All right. My next question is, how do projects operating condition impact project managers and business alignment?
Yeah. The conditions, it's the context in which a project operates, and also is supported or not. So I in my experience, I often strived to have a very isolated project environment, not to be influenced too much from the outside, because sometimes you cannot predict what will happen from the outside. Yeah. And even if my company where I was working for, IBM, changed a lot between years or whatever, a stable project environment helped me to go over 2 or 3 years project I had. So the conditions impact you, but it's one of the tasks to see that as a risk and to prevent the risk to happen by being self-sufficient. That's the best way. And if you have an organization which is very, very mature and everybody is on the same page, you might be embedded and exchange resources and do all of that stuff. That's fine. And IBM had it to a certain degree. But nevertheless, every project is unique. Your customer is unique, and you better are able to serve the customer from your own capacity than to ask for resources all the time, because it eats time and is sometimes stressful, because you don't know if you get the needed inputs, in time. So it's a balance between doing a project well and not having maybe all the best resources from the organization, and being really constrained to your environment. And my personal strive, because I'm risk averse maybe in that, was to try to be self-sufficient in projects.
Yeah, I mean, self-sufficient is important. But as an organization, as a project manager, you need to create an environment, or let's not project, but senior manager need to create an environment where project can handle, can be delivered effectively and efficiently. You don't just assume that project manager come and within any VUCA environment, everything is changing every day, and project manager will make it happen. As you need to create an environment where project can be done effectively and efficiently.
Yeah. And it's even the same thing. I'm serving as a volunteer for the Germany chapter, and creating some online events. So we have a team, and doing that. And No, we are very special in our team, and we are somehow isolated from the chapter because we are doing our stuff, our events, and maybe other groups are doing other events in a different way. So we are using maybe a same tool, but we are trying to minimize, the dependency on other functions in the chapter. As you know, a chapter is working with volunteers, and volunteers have so much time, and sometimes not every volunteer is so responsive as is needed. So it's better, to minimize the risk and to be self-contained in that group doing events than to depend on too many other people.
All right.
And in
Good stuff. Yeah. All right. So my next question is, how do competitive attributes like time to market, quality, cost impact, project success?
Well, I only can say, it's they set the constraints for the projects. It's a context again. So you have to be aware of the context and the constraints, and go on with that. It's a part of your strategy. If you try to isolate your projects, maybe you can put the constraints outside of your daily worrying scope. So are they impacting project success? If you let them free flow, yes, but you have to control them. Time to market is a little bit an expectation on sales guys. They want to sell something this year. So, but you might be able, stakeholder engagement, influence them to have different expectations or not to expect too much. The time to market is not a given, but it's always set by the people in charge of sales. And so sometimes, and it's always a negotiation. What is the right time to market for this product? Because you cannot put a product on the market which has low quality and will not be accepted by customers. So there is a balance, and there is enough reason to negotiate, and there's common ground because you want to have a successful product, and it's not only timely. So that's what the project has to do, negotiate the constraints with the owners of the constraints, and also make sure that the project is somehow protected from the pressure from these constraints.
So look, I mean, we can try as a project manager, but the thing is that sometimes you have to deliver. Like sales team has done great job by selling your product, which is not even built yet. Like I remember HP, when I was in HP, they hired me to deliver this Asia Pacific level cloud data center, and they already sold to 5 or 6 big clients. And here we are in November. We have no idea where the data center is going to be, and it has to be ready by June next year. So next 6 or 7 months, two data center, fully populated with full connection, has to be ready. So, even if you don't like, it's not following the PMI process or any process, you have to make it happen. So, that's where the competitive advantage. If you don't, they will go to somebody else. So it's the competitive market. Sometimes quality is not important, rather than get to the market is more important. Yes, important. I understand. If the failure and all kind of thing, you need to do the benefit cost analysis, the risk analysis, all kind of thing. But if the time to market is important, you need to put all attention to make it happen. That's where the project manager.
But then you have clear priority. So if somebody says, it has to be done on the end of December in the year 1999, otherwise you will have the date problem, then you have a clear priority. But what happens very often is that quality is going down, and that you may slice the scope. You introduce the functions that are needed first, and maybe the others later. So there are many proven ways to still deliver, but maybe in different ways. You have still the triangle of scope, cost, and time is valid, and there's a balance in it. If you prioritize time, okay, you might have increased cost and reduced scope.
Yeah. My next question is, should project managers make informed or intuitive decisions in today's digitally transformed market?
Yeah, I don't think they have a choice. They are free to decide.
Yes,
I think,
exactly.
somebody wrote, we, as a humans, we are doing at least 3,500 decisions per day. And now I ask you, how many of these are data-driven and rational? So most of the decisions, you get up in the morning and you say, okay, should I use left or right foot? It's a decision, what should I eat for breakfast? Or, these 3,500 of these decisions you're doing every day. And most of them are done intuitively, biased, So I don't like, for instance, that everybody's saying, "Oh, you have a bias, and that's a bad thing." No, no, no. We are human because we are biased, and we are biased because we are human. That's that's the integral part of it. It's good to be aware of your bias, but you cannot really put them away. They are there. So should they make informed and intuitive decisions? Well, you will do intuitive decisions anyhow, but the intuition can be influenced by having information. I'm not saying data, I'm saying data is not good because data has to be interpreted. And again, there's intuition. If you have data and you look at it, well, it could be good or bad or whatever. Depending on your experience, you will interpret the data and make your conclusions. Now, what you need is already conclusions prepared for you. These are informations, So what is the objective way to look at the data? Don't trust any statistics that you didn't tweak yourself, is a saying, So data is worthless if you don't have the algorithm to make some conclusions from the data.
Exactly. So understanding, yes, data is important, and understanding the data, understanding the context, and is it relevant to my project or not? All this has to happen. Yes, a lot of decisions we make, you probably said 3,500, maybe more than that. Every second we are taking the decision, but some of them based on, and most of them based on that. Actually, when you say intuitive, it's actually coming based on your data. Whatever you gather as past, 50, 30 years, you learn, and that's where you influence your decision. And
To give an example, executives, they look at your data in a different way and they interpret it differently. So if you show them a project status chart, and a traffic light, and you say it's yellow, they will draw different conclusions than you are drawing, and you will find it out in the steering committee, because they will ask you questions that are, So the question would be, do you have a control above the project? And you will say, yes, sure, I have, but it's yellow, How can you prove it? So no, this is the interpretation of the data you have shown, the yellow traffic light, and they will rather look at the question, can I trust this guy? And you are looking at the question, do I have some problems in the project? And maybe you have some big problems, but you want to hide them, so you cover them with a yellow sign. It's your interpretation what you want to show and how you want to appear. But anyhow, if you have a yellow status, this guy will question your capabilities. So you have to build trust in other ways, not by the traffic light.
Exactly.
And a good sign is this watermelon problem, though, when the project inside is very red, but on the outside it's green, it's a watermelon. And that's interpretation of data.
Exactly. Yes, having data and having right tool to interpret and give you context. I think nowadays we're talking good full tools available which can help you, trillion terabyte of data or maybe more than that, and giving you meaningful information and maybe help you in artificial intelligence or whatever it is, and to make your decision even before you think. They help you. Okay, this is your next step. This is the next step. All right, good discussion, Thomas, as usual. Thank you for your insight and your sharing. And as usual, you done your great job by sharing and bringing the topic into different contexts and make it look very interesting. Business strategy, all this very boring. But when you look at, when you hear from you, when you hear the discussion, it makes more and more sense. So thank you. And
thank you, Dharam, for enabling these sessions, and very interesting to while you're talking, you're also thinking a lot, and the dialogue gives some impulses from your side, from me to your side, to think about. And it's certainly a good topic to look at, because a lot of project managers have problem exactly with that relationship to business strategy, to business stakeholders. And I hope we could give them some thoughts, different perspectives.
Actually, you rightly pointed. The project manager has to think a bigger picture, not just my project. This is the only thing I have to do. What is position of this project with respect to program to the entire portfolio to entire organization? When you start building this line, things start becoming more and more interesting for the project managers. They are more excited, the team is more motivated, and the things you will find more realistic than without having this kind of vision.
Yeah. And the first question was, why should project managers care about business strategy? And as we discussed now, we come to that. Well, to put a focus on business and not only on a project, as you rightly said, don't. I said try to isolate your project. That's correct, but your thinking should be on the outside too, and you should try to understand strategy, and maybe then you can understand the language of executives and better communicate with them and get a better support.
Great stuff. Thank you, Thomas, and till next time. You enjoy the remaining winter in Germany, and I will see you soon again with the topic.
Bye-bye, Dharam. Thank you for your time.
Take care.